And the fact that, and then you also mentioned the Lagos kids, you get the shock of your life when you see this Lagos kids. They're just as ratchet. That's the word I use here.
So you get the extremes with the Lagosians. Some can be very, very rich. Sometimes to their detriment, because they almost wouldn't care much about the school structure. I remember there was a guy who showed up in our SS3 year, and you could tell this guy had cash. And I think he was dumped in all because his parents basically had almost given up on him. But it was a shame, because the rigors of life just weren't there. So the wealth was there, but he just didn't have the discipline. He could always buy people out. He could get the girls, but he wasn't being set up well for crisis in later life, I think. So you get those extremes, and then you get the guys who will claim all sorts, all right, that they had this, they had that, and then you discover actually later that the whole family lived in a room.
Exactly. But the idea of people traveling to Lagos or going back and forth from Lagos, for us who lived in the Iluoke compared to Lagos, right? We're kind of like we had that shock, like, okay, they're not any better, if not worse.
Most people who came from Lagos, to me, felt like they had seen much tougher experiences in life, just because they lived in a bigger city anyways, right? And but they could wax lyrical, so they would say a lot and make you think that they're not necessarily better, but they had a way with words. So you didn't really understand that they were actually struggling, or maybe their families were struggling, and maybe they didn't really see that as a struggle. But you who lived a more sort of balanced life, when you understand fully where the Lagosians were coming from, you realize that they were seeing a part of Nigeria, a lifestyle of Nigeria that was harsher than what you actually.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like somebody who lives in, let's say, you're familiar with the United States a little bit. Let's say somebody who lives in Alabama, in the small town Alabama, right? Compared to someone who lives in the city, or in the Bronx, or in the Brooklyn, or something like that. Right. It's not necessarily better. But it's worlds apart, though.
It's completely different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, so that's what I was talking about here. Emmanuel, who said Mutijel as in Mitijel. That was hilarious. Yeah. That was hilarious.
So that person. So I called the person Emmanuel, I think. So this is me using Emmanuel, a guy called Zito. Again, he's late, sadly.
Yes.
Another person who died tragically, senselessly, because because of Nigeria again.
Because of Nigeria. I mean, it's hard not to attribute that to Nigeria. Obviously, I know people here, personal friends, who died in the swimming pool here as well, right? And some people are, and I want to dwell on this a little bit, some people get in this habit of trying to compare. Maybe somebody's died in swimming pool in New Jersey too.
Yeah.
What is this disconnect in that argument for you?
The disconnect is, you see, here you have the opportunity to get the life skills or whatever you want quickly. With Nigeria, it would take a lot of effort to get close to the basic level of even acquiring those things, because most people will prioritize maybe surviving and eating first before any life skills or swimming. Or even if you wanted to swim, where's the swimming pool? Help you get the training. So it's not the same, at least on this side of the world. There are enough reasons why you ideally shouldn't get yourself in that situation. I mean, the amount of trips I do to the swimming pool with my kids just because it is there. I mean, there are enough of them around us. That
just because. Here we just say just because.
Just because,
right?
There's no just because in most places in Nigeria. So to get some of these life skills, you have to take it on yourself to go find them and acquire them so that you're set up better. So they're not the same. The guys who compare them are not. They don't know what they're talking about.
Speaking of, it's for me it's different at all levels. Like you can't compare, and because you can't compare, I may just leave you alone and not argue with you.
That's a very wise thing to do.
Because I don't have time, honestly. I don't have time, especially when you will look at Bunmi Asaolu and call him Outcast.
That's
you
so
know,
loaded now, right?
I can't, this is, by the way, there are grown adults in Nigeria who will still call you Outcast just because you were a little boy with curly hair and wavy hair, right? It's not right. I always tell people it's not right and wrong. It's just that this argument is not worth it.
Worth it.
You may actually be right, so I don't even want to,
Man,
let me just leave that one alone. Here's a quick question for you. In UK, is Outcast a derogatory terminology?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much,
I think a lot of the words that you find with the Nigeria setup, let me say, at least for us back then, people just didn't know different, and even now they still don't in some quarters. So they use these terms because it's a legacy word. I mean, to give you an example, boys' quarter that you find as a terminology in Nigeria or phrase,
which means the little house behind the main building.
Yeah, where the main building was occupied by the colonial person who was living in Nigeria at the time. So yeah, even when you hear of what's that word that the Ghanaians so when the Ghanaians say chalet.
Yeah, chalet.
It means Charlie, right? They mean Charlie. So there are a few things that we've been left with them. We don't really know where they came from, kind of, and we understand what we mean when we use those words. So when someone says half caste, they don't know what they mean, really. They
don't know the root of that word.
They know the root of that word. I mean, it's just like the word mulatto, for example. It doesn't get used much in Nigeria, but some people use it very, very now.
What is mulatto?
So it's again another variation of this half caste skin color type thing. So if you're out there in a group of students who don't know better, right? They will the closest thing they are using to connect to these words is someone who looks different, who is clearly not an albino like Okwe, but someone who has curly hair, who knows whether they have.
Right. I've seen the use. You're right. Mulatto. It's kind of like saying Oyibo Pepe.
Exactly. Kind of. Yeah. So So if you're close enough to have some traits that make you a little bit different, plus you have family members or friends of your family, as you find in the story in the book, where you have some white person show up with your family. Oh, you know what? In a land of rumors that Sajomaco was, any rumor goes, right? So they'll just equate that to mean I'm going to validate my assumptions about you.
Dare I say that I want to put all black people in the same box for the purpose of this conversation.
Sure.
We take on terminology. Sometimes we tell ourselves, black people all together, and I'm lumping all African Americans into that. We take this word and sometimes we deceive ourselves by saying, we're just going to own it. Let's take it from them and own it. Or we use it completely ignorantly. We don't even know where the word came from, right? And then 5,000 years later, we now start to attack each other, literally each other, or why the word is a derogatory term. So we're talking words like nigger. We're talking about the word Akata, which blew up all over the place on the internet in the last 3 years. I don't know if you've seen it. People fighting each other on Clubhouse on the word Akata. An average Yoruba people is just finding out what Akata truly means. Yeah. So they don't even know where the fight is coming from. And also, they don't know how to back down and say, let me say, maybe there's some kind of opportunity to educate myself here. Yeah. They also want to prove another point by calling you another name. It's a lifestyle, from what I'm seeing, of calling each other. Like there's literally this morning, there's a Clubhouse title called what is the meaning of African booty scratchers, which is what African American call that's what they call their Nigerian people that came to school here. So if you know how you started college in '96 when you came, right? You would have been, if this was America, you would have been called African booty scratcher.